it's Andrea Coleman here. I'm going to demonstrate for you how to make a felt scarf. I live in the UK in Somerset, and I do wet felting, so literally soap and water. So we're going to make this scarf together, and it works like this. I put it round, and can you see I've got, they create a little tunnel, and then you can put the thinner end, the apex of your scarf, the pointy end, through there and wear it like this. So I'm going to go through the equipment that you need and the materials you need to make this. So first of all, I use merino wool as fine as possible. So I'm going to use 3 different colours: pale pink, a middling kind of pink, and a fuchsia-y, dark fuchsia colour. And then if you can see these flowers I've made here, we're going to use this thin, thick yarn. It's space dyed, and we can create these flowers with it. You will also need, to make this, you'll need some thin plastic. It's the kind of thing that builders in the UK use when they're painting to protect your carpet. But you can use a plastic bag, just don't use printed bags because sometimes the print comes off on your work. You'll need a measuring tape. You'll need a permanent marker. I use an old cardboard box to create a template. Here we go, that you'll make. You'll also need scissors, of course, and I've melted some soap. I use pure olive oil soap, and what I do is I put a bar in one of these plastic containers, pour some boiling water over it, and just use the juice that it makes, as it were. I don't have a recipe as such, but what you want is, you don't want your soapy water to be too soapy, otherwise the bubbles will get in the way of the felting process. A jug and an empty squeezy bottle, like so. You will see me using this ball bowser. I do prefer it slightly. It's something that people use to water their bonsai trees, so if you have one, use it. And a jug. The other thing that I use is a roller, a pool noodle. Try to not have one that's full length, cut it, they're really easy to cut. And then things that I do have that you don't need, but because it's winter in Somerset, I do use a cool pack. Sometimes I'll probably use 2 of them during this process. A cool hot pad. So I'll heat it up, and I'll have a slow cooker with water boiling in it, and I'll use that throughout the felt making. The other thing you need is the bubble wrap. You need the small bubbles, and you need to work with the bubbles facing upwards. I have cheated a little bit, so this is a preference that I like. I've got an electric blanket underneath. It's something I like doing, and you would need a circuit breaker just in case you have a problem with it. And then under that I have a grippy mat. You can use a damp towel instead of these 2 things if you like. If you're in a warm place, you won't need them. I think I've covered all the things you'll need, and if not, I'll circle back. I'm just going to show you how when you choose the colours you're going to work with, how you can work out what it's going to be like. So I like going from light to dark. So what you can do is just take a very small amount of your fleece, and I'm trapping it and pulling it out like that, and pat it down, and then we'll use the next colour. And then the darker colour, and that will give you an idea of what colours your scarf will look at the end. You can mix them more than I do as well. And can you notice I'm patting it a lot, like that. And this is just to show you how I can now pick it up and move it, because the fibres cling on to each other. And the reason it does that is, if you take one sheep's fibre and put it under a microscope, it's really raggedy and hooky, and they cling on to each other. Even without the soap and water, they are connected. So we're going to use this almost magical property that wool has to make this scarf. I'll put this away now. So there's a couple of things we need to do before we get started, and one of them is to cut your tassels. So I've got the measurements for you that you need. So you need two tassels that are 12 inches long, and I've prepared them over here. And three tassels that are 20 inches. These are minimum lengths. Another two tassels that are 12 inches and two that are 8. So I'm going to show you how to do a flower, because we'll need one flower right at the beginning. So these are this is my first two. So what you need to do is, there's several different flowers you can do, but if you cut where it's wide, then you can open it out. Oh, I know what I forgot. I forgot to tell you about silk fibres. So at this point, we can add a few silk fibres. I've just got to find them. Here, I've got them here. So this is recycled sari silk here. I've got yellow and I've got pink. And it looks really nice if it comes from underneath as well as on top. So I've got a little bit underneath. You can't, silk is incredibly difficult to manage. You just have to expect the unexpected with it. So we're going to keep this because we're going to use this single one right at the beginning. So I'm going to take this away, take everything away, and we'll revisit flowers later on when we're doing this. So I'm going to move the fleece out of the way. And the silk out of the way. Just want to keep that one safe. I'll put it on top of my soap. So I'll just take a sec to get ready. So what you're going to do now is you need a piece of card, ideally card, or paper and draw a triangle. Move these out of the way. Draw a triangle that is a bit over 50 inches long. So I'd say about 52 inches long. So this length from here to here. And 14 inches at the base. Then at the 50-inch mark, you can curve it round. You can curve that round, and that is your template. Then you're going to lay your thin plastic with the template on top. I've actually done one that I've made earlier, so I'll get that. I'm going to just move these out of the way. This is the one that I made earlier. Using this template. So I put it on top and then marked around it. And I've also marked some markers to indicate where we change the colours when we're working. So it's 12 inches and 16 inches. So I'm just going to straighten everything up. So we're working on a flat surface, a few ruckles. I'll take this out of the way. Don't need it now. I'm laying it down. Right. So to go back to what I was saying, so you've got 12 inches and 16 inches markers here, here, 12 inches, 16, 12, 16, 12, 16. Now there's another important thing that I suggest you do, is you flip this over, because sometimes this permanent marker isn't as permanent as you'd wish. So make sure you're working so that the marker is under your thin plastic. Like that. So everything is in place. I don't need my marker any longer. I'm now going to take my jacket off and get to work. So remember this flower we made earlier? I'm now going to place it upside down. So that's really important. It's upside down. It's on the end of your tassel. About like that. And do you remember the fleece we had earlier? We need to divide each of these into 3 equal amounts. So it can be quite approximate, and if you've got a scale you can use that, but it doesn't need to be very accurate. So we're going to work with one of those thirds, and then the next one I'm just doing a visual it won't be accurate, and often you need more on your first side than you do on the subsequent sides. So, and then this one, so, and you know I said I like working from light to dark. So I'll get my lightest colour, and using this marker I'm going to start from here, laying it down, and what I do is I just trap it and pull it away. I personally like working this way. You get a really even straight fibre line. It's not curly and twisty, which is what you're aiming for. The felt is incredibly forgiving, so don't worry if yours doesn't look as smooth as mine. I've been doing it for over 20 years. It's not surprising. Practice makes perfect. So I'm going over the top of this flower, and remember, keep patting as you go. Now, if you don't get on with this method of the trapping and pulling, don't worry. What you can do is, taking this part of your hand, which is nice and fleshy, just pull just a small bit out and then drop it down. That will work too. And try to keep within your template lines. So if you're having problems doing this, quite often it is because your hands are too close together, or you're trying to take too much out. So if I hold my hand down and my hands are close, I just can't pull it apart. So move both hands further away so you're pulling less fibres out, and you'll probably find that that is the problem that you have. There. So that's my first colour down, and now I'm going to work with the middle colour next. So again, starting from about here, small amounts in your hand. And just let it blend into the next colour. I have now completed layer 1, so it's all going in this direction, so it's like a horizontal direction, and now I'm going to start layer 2. Again, I'll start with the lightest colour first, and this is going to go in a vertical direction. So we will just start like this, and again it's going to be slightly harder to keep within your template, but that's okay. We will adjust that later on. We can use those bits that are over the other side, so you can see I'm going over that, and again small bits in your hand. And it's also important you lift your pulling hand up so that you don't pull away all the work that you've done already. So this will just take me a few minutes to do. And I'm using those guides that we put on at the beginning. So I'll go up to about there. And just look if there's any holes or gaps. If you can see any, top them up. Right, that's the first colour, and don't be frightened of patting it down. Patting is good. And I'm going to go on to my next colour. You won't actually see this layer because we're going to put another layer on top again. But it's important that you have fibres going in different directions, otherwise the felting process won't work. Let's colour the middle colour, and I'll do the darker colour now. Don't forget these corners. It's easy to make them thin and wispy, so we'll add a little extra. Right, that's layer 2. Lots of pattings, always good. And then we'll do our final layer, that's layer 3. Again, starting with the lightest colour. So your third piece of the lightest colour. Starting from that marker. And we do exactly the same as we did with layer 1. We're doing the horizontal layer. And we'll just keep a tiny bit back of the fleece because we will use it when we put our flowers on. You don't need much. That's that one done. Keep those back. Pat it down. Now your middle colour. Exactly the same again. Start from there. I'm just looking for any thin bits now. And I'll keep a tiny bit back. Lots of patting. And I'm just going to do exactly the same with the last colour. Don't forget the corners. And we can mix the colours a little bit, that's nice. There. So that's completed layer 3, which is your final layer. Lots of patting is always good. And do you remember the yarns that we cut earlier? So I did slightly forget to tell you that you need a little bit of thin plastic that's about 2 inches or 2.5 inches by about 5, and we're just going to place it in the middle here, just below your 12-inch marker, like that. That will create our bridge, our bit that we can thread the other end through when we're finished. So we're going to get your 3 longest ones that we cut. Hopefully these are like them. And we're going to create the flowers. So have a good look. You can make them look quite, slightly wind blown if you like. Choose the one you like the best to go in the centre. I think I'm going to choose this dark one. It's not the biggest one, but and I'm going to open it out like I did before. And we're going to place it here. You can have it. It doesn't need to be straight. You can have a wriggle in it. And then we can have this one here. We ideally want the thickest part of the yarn over the thin plastic. And then the last one, I'm just going to nip the end off of this one with a pair of scissors. And we can do one that looks more like a bud. It's quite fat looking. Let's twist it around like that. Bring that one up a bit. Take as long as you like playing around with that. And you can add your silks to it, and also if you have got some little bits left over from cutting your yarns, you can play around with them. Let's have a look what we've got. So they're the two smallest ones, so I'll put those on the corner. Further. And then this should be the middle sized. Like that. And that one there. And then you can put your silk on there. And any little bits of yarn that you've got left over, you can use. So even the white here. Now you've got your flowers in place, we can use little bits of the leftover yarn if you need to. Even the white is, or whatever colours you've got, you can tuck them in even underneath to give them a little bit more depth and interest. You'll probably be working with completely different colours from me anyway. But you can see how you can make your flowers a little bit bigger if you want to. And normally you don't cut your fleece, but if you need to cut this yarn, that's absolutely fine to get it exactly the size you want. And I'm just twizzling it up, putting it down. I think we'll make this centre one a little bit bigger, shall we? Look nice. And I'll just pop it underneath. Just give it a little light bit underneath. and then we can put silks on as well. I can spend ages doing this. I really enjoy it, this part, creating your flowers. I've got a bit of silk on there. And it can be absolutely paper thin, the silk. Can look nice coming from underneath as well. And again, if you need to cut it, cut it. Silk's incredibly difficult to work with. It does its own thing, and you just have to accept that it's hard to manage. And kind of the beauty of it as well, that you can't have the last say in it. This is recycled sari silk that I'm using. And then once you've done this and you're happy with how it looks, very important, we need to secure what I call the neck part of the flowers down with that little, you know, I said you need to save a little bit. So I'll show you that now. So with this bit of fleece that I've got left here, I'm going to put a little bit over each area that's just under the flower to keep it. It will really keep it in place. It's quite important that we do this. And then on this area, because of this part that we want to make it very secure, the bridge part, I'm going to put a little bit over these bits as well, just going across, and then each one of these we can do. Just to help them, to keep them in place. And then we'll go up to the other end of the scarf and do exactly the same. There. I'll move the table, we'll move up the other end, just clear away anything you don't want on your scarf. So remember, we've got one on this side, so I'm going to put one like this here, and then if you've got, And then if you've got another one that you can put on, you can do that. And again, we'll secure it with the fleece across the neck area, and we can put a little bit of silk on there. And when you're happy with what you've done, we'll clear up everything that we don't need here, and we're ready to do the wet part. So, just going to put this in the middle. Pat it down. You should have another piece of thin plastic. You'll need that in a sec. You'll also... Right. I've mixed up my soapy water in a jug. It's really quite warm. You can decant it into your squeezy bottle and then squeeze it out all over your scarf. 1/2 litre, 1 pint should be about enough. I'm going to use my Bowser because I'm so fond of it, and it does do a nice sprinkle. So I'm going to sprinkle it all over. Just be very gentle with your flowers. You can also fold this thin plastic over your bridge area there, because we don't want to felt that area. It's protecting it. Don't worry too much about your thin edges, because we will be patting it down and they will get, the water will spread out. Should be enough. So now I'm going to cover this with the thin plastic, a second piece. We've got a bit of help here. Unravelling. There, and it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. But this is important, patting down. So it's really important. Don't try and get rid of your water. The water is good. It really helps. And I would recommend even 20 minutes patting. Don't worry, you don't have to watch me for 20 minutes patting down. But I will be patting away, especially while it's warm like this. You're really being effective, and you can be quite firm. Spread your hands out wide. Don't worry if your thin plastic is a bit creased, that's not important. You can even ask a friend to help. Put on some nice music for 20 minutes and pat away. Right, I hope you've been patting for about 20 minutes, and you can use your heat pad if you've got one to keep your work warm. I'm now going to turn the whole of my work over. So to do that, you've got 2 pieces of thin plastic. Leave your bubble wrap in place, and we're going to firmly grab it and flip it over. It will work. Don't be frightened. So now this is the underneath part. We'll just straighten it all out. Do a little bit more patting. Make sure your tassels aren't caught up. And then very carefully I am going to peel off this top piece of plastic. Don't be tempted to rip it off. Just take your time over it, peel it away carefully. Because you take it off, you won't probably need that bit. Well, yes you will. And then I'm going to take this side here and very gently draw it on top of itself. This is optional. If you don't want to do this, it's fine. Your edges might be very slightly more raggedy and less defined, but you'll still have a scarf that you'll enjoy wearing. It's just a little bit of finishing that looks nice. So I've folded it over. I'm now patting it down, and you can see your first flower that you put on. So again, take your time over patting. You can even stroke it a little bit. And then we'll unravel this, and again, don't just whip it away, because sometimes you can lift those fibres up that we've placed there. And now we're going to do exactly the same on this side. Pat it down. And we'll unravel. See there, it's lifting up. That's where you've got to be so careful. Just going to pinch this together. I know I'm patting it directly. You do have to be a little bit careful, and if you want, just lay your plastic down, so that's a barrier between you and the fleece. But if you're careful, you can do it. It's a nice feeling to feel your felt forming as well. Right, I'm going to put the other thin piece of plastic back on top and get ready for rolling. So do you remember your roller? So also just be careful you've got it so that the pen isn't on your work. So it should be upside down. I actually have 2 rollers, which is quite useful. So now's a nice time to use your heat pad, and we can just warm our work up if it's got a little bit cold. I'm going to carefully roll it so it's both bits of plastic and, sorry, start again, both bits of plastic and your bubble wrap this time, wrapped like this. I'm going to drag it to the end of my table. I'm going to try and move things so you can see me. That can go back in the slow cooker. So I'd advise you to work from the end of your table, but so that you can see me, I will work like this, but I wouldn't normally move it. I'd just go down to the end. And I'm going to go 50 times in this direction. And I'm going to use quite a bit of pressure. And now I'm going to unroll it. So you'll just work from one end of your table to the other end. You don't need to move it. Okay. Let's have a look. Don't worry about wrinkles, we can straighten them out. So like this end's got a little bit wrinkled. So I'm just going to straighten it out a bit. That one. Any wrinkles? That's quite normal. And then you can take your heat pad again and use it. Put it down here, even do this so both sides get warm. I'm going to roll from the thin end, just the pointy end. And don't worry if it's all a bit messy, your thin plastic, it's quite normal. I've just seen another crease. Try and work that one out. Back in the slow cooker. I'm going to roll it up just as I did before. Turn it round so you can see. So another 50. Right, I've unrolled, I've done 50 rolls from that end, 50 rolls from that end, so 100 rolls in total. I've put the heat pads back on and I'm just rubbing it a little bit with my hands, patting and rubbing. The whole thing feels a lot stronger now, but not strong enough to be strong enough to wear as a scarf. So we're going to repeat exactly what we just did. Another 50 rolling from this end and 50 rolling from that end. I'm just warming it up with the heat pads. So I'll start rolling up exactly the same way as we did from this end. So here we go. Right, 50. So I've rolled it for an extra 50 each end, so total rolling 200 rolls. And now I'm going to finish it off just to get it a little bit stronger. I've got my soap here and I'm going to get my hands really soapy, and I've got the heat pads here as well, and I'm just going to, in my hands, or also just directly onto the thin plastic, keeping it nice and warm. I'm just giving it an extra rub, and I'll go all over it like this. Extra soap on my hands and keeping it warm. Make sure the fibres don't lift up. I can really feel the difference as it changes under my hands. If it feels cold, just put the heat pad on it. Don't be frightened of it. You can't do any damage. Keep on getting your hands soapy. More here. It's really getting stronger now. Let's see this side. Can even get rid of this thin plastic now. Goes straight onto the bubble wrap. And let's look at the other side, shall we? There's your flowers. You can take this little bit out. See, that's separate. Don't forget those corners. Give them a good rub. This direction, and I would say your scarf is just about ready. You can probably rinse it now. Shall we have a look? Let's see if it's shrunk. So one way of telling is get that original template, the cardboard one. Let's measure it against it, shall we? Where's it gone? Look at that. Good job. Definitely. So you can do as much or as little as you want. Now you're just about done. Now you've made your scarf, well done, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. But before you finish, you need to rinse it out a couple of times in cool water, and if you add a little bit of vinegar to your last rinse, it restores the pH balance and it's good for the wool. And then roll it up in a dry towel, squeeze out the moisture, put it to dry somewhere, and then you can iron it on a wool setting and you're ready to go. Enjoy wearing your scarf. I do hope you've enjoyed your workshop with me today, and I really look forward to doing another one with you. If you'd like to join me for something else, that would be great. Goodbye from Somerset.